everybody, and welcome back to Psychedelics Today. This is Solidarity Friday. Joe Moore here with Kyle Buller. Kyle, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you doing, Joe? Getting some laps in, I see, over the past few days.
Yeah, don't tell too many people I'm skiing. Yeah, day 4 coming up. And yeah, we just got a whole mess of snow, like 12 inches, and you're now surviving this whole, what are they calling it? Bomb cyclone thing or whatever? Just a lot of flooding.
Nor'eastern. Yeah, we got slammed with the nor'eastern. Man,
I do kind of miss those long rainy periods. I just don't have that in my life anymore, and there's some value there. Yeah, nice forced rest. Maybe that's why I got hurt in Colorado. No forced rest on account of weather. Anyway, let's dig in. First up, Wonderland. This conference is coming up in Miami pretty soon. It's on Monday, the 8th of November and the 9th of November, a 2-day conference. Looks like you and I might actually have like panel and or speaking slots, like moderator slots. So that could be really fun. Yeah, didn't even really think about getting in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. But we're doing it, I hope. Yeah, man, I'm pretty excited about it. It'll be nice to like hang out with you and David and kind of, get to meet a lot of listeners and some other folks that are going to be there. Anything you're in particular like excited about?
I'm just excited to get out and connect with everybody. I mean, I was a little on the rocks about going, but I guess after a lot of persuasion and seeing who was going and stuff like that, it felt kind of silly not to be going. And also, we're nominated for 2 awards. So if you're listening, you can go over to microdose.buzz, go over to the Wonderland tab there, and there's a voting section. But I don't know. I think it was like community submitted, but podcast of the year and media company of the year that we're nominated for. So for those listening, that would help us out tremendously. If you really like what we're doing over here, go over to Microdose and vote for us. It'd be really cool to win an award.
Yeah, I would really enjoy winning an award. But yeah, it's fun. So if folks want to help us out, you can get a discounted ticket with our coupon code. Helps us enormously, by the way. At microdose.buzz, just use the code Psychedelics Today, and you save 20%. Helps us enormously. So, can't stress that enough. And just kind of want to read some of the names here. So we've got Lamar Odom is going to be there, Robin Carhart Harris, Matt Johnson, Deborah Mash, a lot of Ibogaine experience with Deborah. Doblin's going to be there. Jayashri Mitra, who's a partner at our friend Zuber Lawler's firm. I'm a huge fan of Dr. J there. She's a rock star. You got David Nutt, Amanda Siebert, Ben Sessa. There's like a lot of really heavy hitters here. Multiple pro athletes. It looks like Lynn Marie Morsky's got sort of a headline spot, which is neat. And all of these business people. It's going to be interesting. I don't think we've had this opportunity to have so much of like the culture interface with so much of the business before.
I was just talking to somebody about that, of like, I guess just thinking about what the conference is going to be like. And I kind of was like saying, this has been so grassroots. And when we think about like Horizons or Maps, it was just like very kind of like research oriented. And you had people that have just been part of the grassroots movement for a while, versus this is like, the research combining with like the business sector and, how this is just really expanding. So I don't know. I'm really interested in hearing part of the podcast that you did with Patrick. They have some giant mushroom statues that they're getting there too.
Yeah, he had to fight to get that in the budget, which is super funny. Yeah. They kept wanting to cut it. I love it. Oh shit, I didn't even realize that Sander Ironrope's going to be there. I think he presented at MAPS a couple years back when we were there. Amber and Marcus Capone, Ethan Needleman, former longtime director of DPA. So that's going to be awesome. There's a couple other names here that stood out. Melissa Lavasani doing all that great work in DC with Plant Medicine Coalition. Max Montrose from Trichome Institute. Big fan of Max. Somehow we didn't get to meet when we were living together in Colorado, but whatever. Meet her from there. Shayla Love from Vice will be there, staff writer that covers a lot. That'll be cool to meet Shayla. Rachel Yehuda from Mount Sinai, and I think works for the VA as well. That'll be awesome. She's like a real dominant figure in PTSD research, best I can tell. Yeah, so just endless names. The list just keeps scrolling. So check it out. There's going to be people there you want to meet. We'll be there. I'm somehow surviving a red-eye flight from Vegas.
Back-to-back conferences.
Monday morning. Yeah. I'm trying to go easy on myself. Like, I'm saying no after parties at all for me. More than maybe 30 minutes. It's like shake some hands and get out. Just I need sleep. This is a little too much for me. But I'm excited. I'm excited regardless. Anyway, it's again November 8 and 9, middle of Miami, right close to the waterfront and downtown. You can meet a lot of folks and make a lot of great connections if you come. So again, microdose.puzz/Wonderland/Miami, or you can go to our page. It's psychedelicstoday.com/welcome, and you get a link right there, and it tracks our affiliate code, and we get a little bit of revenue from that. So really appreciate you all hearing all of our mentions, but it's just exciting to be back in front of people again, shaking hands and hugging and all that fun stuff. Let's try to keep it COVID friendly, so maybe minimal hugging.
This is definitely going to be
hugging.
The first big event I've been to since COVID. So it feels really exciting. A little nerve-wracking, but also exciting.
Yeah, I've been to a few Fish shows, and it's a little nerve-wracking. Thankfully, people will be a little more grounded here than at Fish shows, so should feel a little safer. Yeah. So if you have questions, hit us up. Support@psychedelicstoday.com, I think. And psychedelicsday email at gmail is still up too. Anyway, okay, on to the next. The code psychedelics today to save 20% at checkout. All right, next up. This one's going to be a little dicey, and we're going to try our best here. So a lot of you have wondered why we haven't commented on these ethics issues that were raised by Will Hall. And we're going to try to address a little bit of that. We've got pressure from a number of people who weren't really involved with, or our involvement wasn't visible to them, Kyle, right? Like, people didn't know how we were involved in this at all. And like, I'm not going to try to disclose too much here because I still feel like there's a little bit of a legal risk for us. So we're going to be a little delicate too. So for those who don't know, past podcast host and past blogger Will Hall recently had some allegations in very long form blogs on both Mad in America and Medium. We'll link to them in the show notes. But Kyle, can you talk about how you knew Will? Like, how did you meet him eventually?
Yeah, I first met Will back in, I think it was 2015. I just started at Soteria, and we were getting the house ready, and we just were going through a lot of different training programs. And the one training program that a select few of us at Soteria went through was a harm reduction approach of coming off of psychiatric drugs, which was presented by Will Hall and Oryx Cohen. And so, a few of us took this training. That's where I first met Will. That's how we first got connected there. So it was fun to, I guess, like, get reconnected with him over the years. I stayed in touch a little bit right after the training while I was there, and then kind of fell off of it a little bit once I left Soteria.
Right. Okay, so you knew him in this kind of non-psychedelic context. Like, did you have many like conversations about?
We did. So the really interesting thing, and I'm kicking myself too. So part of that training group, they were Phil Borges was there with his film partner as well, spacing on his name. They were there filming for a documentary called Crazy Wise, which
didn't you get in that?
Yeah, I had like a quick little cameo of my face.
Nice.
And so, they were there filming that training. So if anybody watches Crazy Wise, you'll actually see footage from Vermont from that training. And during that, I definitely brought up a lot of, conversations around psychedelics. We actually had this like interesting day where we were just sharing our stories, and Phil and his partner were just filming us. And so I remember sharing my story around psilocybin and just my journey there. And I'm sure he still has the footage. I would love to see it. But that really kind of kicked our conversation off. I think Will and I kind of chatted a little bit, just the importance around some of this research and this field. So this was back in 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that, timeline wise, that's only a year before we started the program here at Psychedelics Today. So good to track that. We started May 2016. Is that the date?
That was the first episode that we launched. Yeah. I mean, obviously it kind of got started a little bit beforehand, but yeah, that's when we kind of initially kicked things off.
Yeah. Cool. So, anyway, I think you had been hearing things through the grapevine, and I had, I'm often yelling at God, saying, "Why am I the psychedelics police?" Like, this is really tough for everybody to come to me with ethics complaints when there's no easy answer here. And I was forced into deep introspection for months, if not years, about what is the right move for us to make around this. Me as an individual and for the company, right? And for the community, really. And, they're not the only, these folks that Will names, like Francoise Borzat and Aharon Grossbart, they're not the only people that we've been hearing about, right? Like, this is a prevalent issue. And Will isn't the only victim we've heard about from that circle either. Like, we know others. And we know the others who are victims know many others. And I just recorded with Aize yesterday. And he was like, yeah, I was in there training with them and working with them, and I saw a lot of problems and eventually just got out of there. Wasn't my thing to fix. Just like, nope. So, it was obvious to a lot of people that there was some issues. And
I don't think it was a secret. Like, I've definitely chatted with people that were like kind of in and out of those communities, reporting things just around like, ethical situations. But I think, obviously it feels really big once it gets released to the public.
Yeah, like it feels bigger now that people kind of know, which is partly why I just calmed right down. I'm like, okay, like I don't need to stress about people getting hurt anymore, which is lovely. And I had been worried and had a really bad taste in my mouth for a long time. And, going to bed at night knowing that I'm keeping my mouth quiet, like, is that complicity? So I even, after hearing Will's testimony well over a year ago on the phone, I think it was a 2-hour phone call. My jaw was on the floor the whole time. I set up meetings with people like David Bronner and others to say, hey, like, heads up, this is coming down the pipes. Like, be careful. I got minimal buy-in from leaders in the space. People mostly thought I was crazy or lying, or that was just their public face to me, right? So really scary to see that leaders in the space just dismissing reports from people in the scene like that. And how do we balance this as a whole, right? Like, this is a really complicated thing to sort out. So I guess let's get into a little bit. Can you describe, like, briefly maybe what Will wrote about? High level sketch, maybe. We don't need to get into any of the real details. People can read that on their own.
Yeah, I would really suggest people to go read through that. But I mean, Will had the courage to write this very long article about his experience, really around being a client for kind of psychedelic assisted therapy and experiencing abuse from Aharon, and just coming out and really talking about it. So, yeah, I guess that's the quick overview, but I would really kind of encourage people to go check it out and read Will's account firsthand there. I don't want to also be speaking for his story, even though it's public.
Right. So it's largely like inappropriate behavior, and also what are students learning by observing this inappropriate behavior, and then what happens a number of years downstream when those students are in positions of power or running clinics or whatever it is. It's tough. And I see like a lot of possible long-term damage to the scene from it. Another observation is a lot of people want to lean on restorative justice here. Restorative justice is cool. I think like some of the best applications are for teenagers, doing bad stuff like breaking windows or whatever, and let's work it out in an RJ fashion because, incarceration isn't great at age 16. When somebody was hurt this badly and or raped, like, do they even feel safe enough to come into the RJ space? Restorative justice takes two to tango. Really, it takes a whole village to tango. But, one of the first things is an admission that, yes, I did something wrong. And it doesn't seem like that's forthcoming. It's really stressful for me. So, like, my talk track typically is that none of this would have happened if it weren't for the drug war. If prohibition wasn't in place, certain, allegedly special people wouldn't be in privileged positions and able to then take advantage of folks in, exciting, unique ways, right? It would almost be boring and less exotic if this drug war thing was out, right? Like, whenever legal cannabis goes in, less teenagers are smoking cannabis. It's less sexy, it's less appeal. Like, the secret ingredient is crime in a lot of cases for a lot of these experiences. And as soon as the crime is gone, people don't necessarily have that same level of interest, despite the mystical potential or like potential for good feelings.
Yeah. And I think that like hits the nail right on the head that, a lot of this I feel like is perpetuated by the drug war. And, we've talked about this on previous episodes in the past, but how do you report stuff like this? And when there's a whole community, like as you pointed to, like what happens when teachers train communities like this and then the community starts to perpetuate harm? Like I've definitely heard of reports that it wasn't just with those two facilitators, right? Like it also kind of rippled out, and I've heard of abuse allegations from people that were trained by them and then trying to have some sort of accountability. But then the community is so intertwined with underground illegal activity that people are afraid to come out, people are afraid to report it, so it kind of stays in the underground, right? A lot of people, and I think that is the challenge. It's like, how do you come out and say this happened, but you were also engaging in illegal activity? It's this weird catch-22, and people just feel like they kind of remain stuck to some degree. Right? Like it's really scary to talk about, hey, like I had this psilocybin psychotherapy session or MDMA psychotherapy session and this happened, and who do I go talk to now? I can't report it to the police, or if it was any sort of other type of abuse, right, you could go make reports places. But since we're wrapped up here with a lot of illegal activity, it makes it much more complicated. So it seems that then the behavior is continues to persist, and how do you kind of change that? I think people like Will having the courage to come out publicly to talk about it, where now people are starting to have conversations around it, people are starting to talk about it, but it's challenging. And we've chatted with, we've tried to reach out for like mentorship to a lot of different like mentors or maybe elders in the space to try to address this, and it's all like what do we do?
There's
here?
barely any good feedback, right? Like, okay, so in the past you just walked away from this, cool, like maybe that worked in the 70s, it's not working right now. And did it actually work in the 70s? Probably not. You just kind of like helped, I don't know. I don't want to be spiteful to people in the 70s. Like, you did play an important role here, but, really not speaking the truth and being afraid to speak the truth is a huge problem. The drug war plays into this. High demand group dynamics, thinking of Matthew Remski, and like, does this thing qualify as a high demand group? Like, there's a possibility. And do people really need it? A lot of people think they need a really deep, community that's been around for decades. It's nice. It's a nice to have, but it's not scalable to think that everybody can have that. In some cases, you have to make your own community and circle here, folks. And understand that, at a certain point, you will become that elder that you were seeking for guidance, given diligent effort and careful attention to detail and, a lot of integrity. Those things can really add up to you becoming the elder that you were seeking in somebody else, right? It's an interesting transmutation.
It's interesting that you can kind of, I guess, meditate on that, around what were you seeking, and what did you really need for during that time, and just thinking about those situations you're in. I know during my deep period of seeking, I think we have to admit, like, we're somewhat vulnerable, right? We're looking for something. Many of us have been through struggles. We're trying to heal from trauma. We're trying to work through our own shit, and we're very vulnerable and susceptible. And just thinking about, like, if you are stepping into those roles, just even thinking about that, like how to approach that carefully, knowing that, hey, I've been there before. And I definitely could have been in the position of getting taken advantage of, because I would have tried anything to try to heal from whatever I was working through. And if somebody was saying, hey, this is the way to do it and this is okay, and versus, like, I don't know, I think it should be more collaborative at times, right? I think some of the teachers that I've really worked with, it was more of a collaboration. I feel just really grateful to kind of have some of those mentors in my life, where it wasn't, this is what you need to do. And it felt more kind of like straightforward. It was like more of a collaboration. And it's like, hey, we're on this journey together.
Right. And this is tough because it flies in the face of this idea that the ritual should be the same from, 500 to 1,000 years ago. Perhaps that's not true anymore. Maybe it is in some cases, but maybe it isn't too. Maybe there's room for adaptation here and learning from high demand groups / cults in the past. And stepping into a place of agency and not just saying, okay, you're the expert. Like, sure, take my pants down and do what you want. This is me being a little spiteful, because we both have been hearing reports for so long, and it drives me nuts and makes me not necessarily want to play in this sandbox, because, too many kids shit in the sandbox and it's not fun anymore. Right. It's like, I can gladly do my own thing. We can gladly do our own thing. And it doesn't even have to involve, these kind of poisoned pools, maybe. Or am I being too cynical? I don't know. I'm willing to accept that I might be being a little too harsh on the scene, because I know there's a lot of value that comes through.
Right. And I mean, I don't know, something that just like popped into my head is maybe the how compliant people become, and I think, like, when I hear you talk like that, I mean, something that kind of pops in my head is hearing people share these reports and then also acting like, it's no big deal. And again, I think that kind of comes back to that tribal mentality, right? If you're living in an environment where most of your community is attached to that, and you're hearing these reports and you're aware of it, but then you also don't want to get shunned from the group and pushed outside, what do? Right. And I was definitely kind of hearing that from some people as well. It's like, I don't know what to do right now. Like, everybody I'm surrounded by is like wrapped up in this to some degree. And if I speak out, or if I don't go along with it, then, again, it kind of comes back to our probably most primal fear, is being left alone outside the group. And so people kind of, comply to it. And, I think that's just in human nature to try to stay together to some degree. But no, I think it is easy to kind of like start to feel that way when you hear a lot of things, and, just kind of leaves my head scratching, being like, well, yeah, why don't you say no, or this or that? But again, I don't know. I've never been in a situation like that. So I have a hard time kind of speaking to, I don't know what I would do if I was stuck in that position and needed to make some sort of like action.
I would hopefully be able to stand up for myself, hopefully. I don't know if I would, but I have hope that I would. And stand up for myself is anything from walking out to, if I'm getting restrained, like, force my way out of restraint and get the fuck out of there, right? Yeah. Like, if you don't feel safe, you don't feel safe. But that's tough, because, like, what if you're mid-session and that's when the abuse is kicking in, right? And it's actually, is it more unsafe for you to leave, or stay and be subject to that, risk? Kind of want to talk about this dynamic. So, Mormonism, Scientology, Nexium, and this, I'm not trying to universalize, I'm just saying, like, general, like, I've heard a lot of stories. So you've got this deeply ingrained community, family, sacrament religion thing that you're practicing, right? And you're working through it. It's kind of like a high demand thing. There's a lot of money to stay involved. Scientology, sometimes like you have to pay 20 grand to 100 grand just to like move to the next thing, right? And Mormonism, like it's high demand, but it's a lot more relaxed than Scientology. It's cheaper to be a Mormon than a Scientologist, I think. I used to live in Utah, so I have some baggage there. Full disclosure. NXIVM, right? Like you had this charismatic leader, you wanted to be close to that leader. You wanted to be doing all this activity to like help move yourself up the hierarchy. Interestingly, the film didn't really talk about money too much. There was some talk of money, but not a lot. But you start asking questions, right? And you get kind of like booted from the middle. And if you ask too many questions, you're going to get totally cut off and removed, if not sued to the end of the world, right? Like Scientology is very litigious. Same with NXIVM when it was still quite active, very litigious. When you have that much money, you can bully people around. So look at this dynamic. Is that playing out in your community? Are you potentially afraid to say something because your leaders have too much money? And you're worried about legal ramifications? I saw some of the defamation threats against Will Hall. And it was not pretty. It was, not pretty to the point where you and I were really freaked out to even be involved or talk about it. So that's us being influenced by this kind of like, well-financed group with the threat of legal action. It was not great.
Right.
And it didn't name us on any of the things, but it was like, if you do this, like we have this law firm that's going to come at you. I'm like, how the fuck do we even handle that? Because this is exactly it. Is this what celebrities do? Like, is this what Mike Tyson did, like around the rape thing that he went to jail for? People might not remember that he raped somebody and went to jail, but he did. And what do we do around all this?
And I think, it brings up a good question just around like, again, that like being compliant, just thinking about that dynamic of like hearing all these reports, sitting with it, but then also worrying about like, if we speak up, are we going to get like hit with a lawsuit for slander, defamation? It's like, what do we do here? Right. There's like, it kind of like hangs over your head of like, we want to do something. We want to like, maybe try to talk about this on the air when it wasn't public, but it was also like, what are we going to get hit with if we do that?
Are we going to lose friends? Probably after this episode, but we'll deal. And Kyle, what we haven't really talked about is by coming out about things, we then enter the public and legal arena of like people could go to jail for infractions around drugs. And this is like, it's kind of an iteration of the new witch hunt, the narc thing, but it's also quite real. Like we don't want anybody near us that could put us at risk. Like if you told the police or any kind of law enforcement about drug stuff, like I personally don't want you near me, honestly. I don't trust you. And therefore, like you pose a risk to me and my community and my business and all this other stuff. So like, this is a social pariah phenomenon too. And I get why a lot of people don't want to be near, narcotics agents or informants or whatever. Personal tangent, like my first cassette was Informer by Snow. I think the album was called 12 Inches of Snow or something like that. It's I think a rapper from Toronto talking about an informant. And my brother sent me something this morning and I was like, that's interesting timing. So anyway, like, we don't want to get anybody in legal trouble for drug stuff. I don't, at least. And yeah, but how do we balance this? Like, at what point is somebody a perpetrator enough to then, warrant people, thinking about that? Like, if you inform on somebody, don't expect to be around and welcome in the space at all. I think people should recognize that and understand that. I don't think we've talked about that enough lately because there's so many new people coming to the scene that this might not be common knowledge or even common sense. Right? Like by doing this stuff, often you are breaking the law and you expose yourself to a lot of legal risk.
Yeah.
And by people inviting you into their world, they're exposing themselves to tremendous amounts of legal risk.
Yeah.
So there has to be this trust, and as soon as the trust is gone, what the fuck is left?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, as things like evolve so rapidly, and seeing that, yeah, I'm always so surprised. Where I'm like, no, we're still dealing with illegal substances here, and just the law can come crack down on you at any time. I've learned that a few times.
Yeah, we've never really talked about it the other show. We'll keep it quiet for now. I've only been in the back of a police car once, and thank God I was like 14 years old, so it's kind of fine.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, even like speeding tickets, right? Like going the speed limit, but needing to meet a quota, and you still get slapped with a heavy fine, right? Even though you weren't breaking the law. It was like, well, hey, come after you for doing X, Y, and Z. Or yeah,
it's really good training for not trusting law enforcement, right? Like, oh, cool, yeah, I'm a 16-year-old, cool. You want me to be against you for the rest of my life? Solid. Yeah. Like, somebody very close to me was in training to be a police officer in their undergrad. Got pulled over and pulled out of the car, and the cop slammed her head on get this, on the hood of her car like 4 to 5, 6 times, and then took a key or his flashlight all over the car and just destroyed, like really damaged the car on purpose to be spiteful and an asshole. So it's like, okay, you as a law enforcement agent just degraded the profession like to an amazing degree. I could go on this rant for ages, but police officers, law enforcement, like, thank you to the honest and good ones. But it's hard. It's a similar thing. It's this fraternity it's a boys club often in law enforcement, and you're not supposed to out your partners and friends who did some bad shit. So like, if you're the cop that told on your friend or your coworker, like, you get ostracized. It's a really similar dynamic here. It rhymes a little bit with law enforcement, CIA agents, FBI agents, military people not seeking mental health treatments because it could restrict their upward mobility in the organizations. These are structural bad issues that we really need to look at. Yeah. So all that to say is we've got a lot of work to do. I'm personally sorry that we weren't able to come out with this on our own. We did really, I think, help Will a bunch, connecting him with folks and like mentoring him a little bit and kind of like trying to help him have a strategy. But it just felt too risky to come out with for us. And maybe it's cowardice, but maybe we just thought we would be better players if we were alive in the space for a few more years, at least, or 20 more years, however it looks out, right? There was a lot of thinking that went into this over the last 12 to 18 months. So sorry, but thank you all for reading it.
And just even, I guess, like talking about it now, right, feels like kind of scary, right? It's like, ooh, wait, you've known about this, or you were like trying to help him with this and haven't really spoke up about it until now. Like,
my strategy was calling
really
famous people. Every time I was on the phone with somebody that was like really valuable, like VIP in the space, like MVP in the space, like I would kind of leak it 1-to-1 to 1-to-1 if they seemed like trustworthy people, that weren't going to try to like screw up my world. And it's unfortunate. It's sad. And I hope everything shakes out. I hope the organization can reform. That said, how many people at that organization had knowledge, had reports, and did nothing? I know there's complicity with other organizations. So, I've got a bad taste in my mouth just in general about the Bay right now. So, I'll come and hang out, look at your architecture, but I'm not necessarily looking to get involved in the Bay Area scene. So sad day, but hopeful as well. Any creative act is necessarily destructive. I hope that's a Whitehead quote. Doubt it, though.
It sounds like it could be.
Any kind of closing thoughts for you, Kyle?
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of stuff, and I feel like we've probably hinted towards things like here and there, throughout the years. But yeah, I just want to just really, thank Will and for some of the other folks that have been willing to kind of speak up about this stuff to us over the years, and I guess like kind of trust us with that. And just, yeah, again, like having the courage. And something that I come back to is that we could dismiss, Will's just one person that publicly put his story out there. But I don't know, like it's really hard to hear stories like that and just dismiss it, right? And say, oh, like, that people or that community would never do anything like that. I don't know, when somebody comes and reports that type of abuse or just anything like that, like
the Catholic Church would never do anything like that.
Yeah, like I have a hard time just saying, nah, like, no, I really am trying to hear people and their experience. And, why would I deny that and say that would never happen? So, for those that may be like dismissing people that are reporting this, I just also encourage, if you do hear some of this stuff, to, be willing to listen too. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to come out and talk about something, so vulnerable and so, scary for some people, right? It's like, so yeah. How about you? What do you?
It takes a lot of courage to say stuff like this and come out as a victim. There's a book called Missoula. I think it was a Krakauer book, and it talked about how university towns, and in particular Missoula, Montana, is like a rape capital of the country, and how many untested rape kits there are, and how minimally police departments care about rape, and what can they even do, right? It's how many untested rape kits are just ready to be tested and ready to like help put somebody in jail? Like, unbelievable to me. And it again shows a lack of proper prioritization from law enforcement. Like, they really need to step it up and start doing the right things, I think. How do we get there? I'm not sure. We need to really think carefully about it, though. And spend some time thinking about, what do you do with single reports? Like, where do you categorize that for yourself internally? Do you say, okay, I'm going to flag that for later? Do you say, okay, one report from this type of person is enough for me to want to do something? Are there journalists I can send them to or something like that? Or what happens when you get 2 to 3 to 5 reports about certain organizations or individuals? Like, one report might not be enough. Maybe 3 is too many. Or maybe 3 is the right amount to act. So you've got to figure this out for yourselves. I'm not going to tell you what the rules are. But, at least think about this stuff is my main suggestion. Think about, is your organization perpetrating anything like this? Are you covering things up that aren't that pretty? And I'm not talking about, like, we only do ayahuasca with rich people. I'm talking about, like, a young woman comes in, or young man, and you just do some crazy shit to him. Harmful stuff. It's like, you to feel good about yourself years later. The trick is to have integrity now, so you handled that situation to the best of your ability, so you don't feel guilty on your deathbed or when you're sick in the hospital or something, right? Because that's the time you don't want that guilt on your deathbed. You want to think you did your best. And that's what we tried to do through this whole process. Go ahead.
No, I guess something else that's just been coming up just around, as this field progresses, more and more people are doing it, and more facilitators with not a lot of training and experience start offering underground services. I mean, doing your own due diligence to really kind of figure out who you're working with, what their training is, and what type of questions can you ask to try to start to spot, like, to I guess really figure out some of their intentions. I think I mentioned this in a past episode, but yeah, I was on this panel in Clubhouse years ago when I was on Clubhouse for a few days. How to spot a narcissistic facilitator, and just realize that these dynamics go hand in hand. Like, we think about like the narcissist and the empath, right? Like go hand in hand. And so, this field also attracts, I think, those types of personalities because maybe the sexiness of being an underground facilitator, maybe the power that comes along with that. And, really, I guess, like educating yourself around that. I did an episode with Dr. Daniela Pelusa a while ago. It's definitely on our top 10 episodes just around sexual abuse guidelines for ayahuasca retreats. So really just start asking yourself too, like, what are you looking for with these experiences? Again, something that we talk about in our classes is just really around intention. Like, what are you looking for? What are you seeking? How much of your own power are you giving away in these experiences? And I think part of the work is really developing your own agency within this work and healing work, and kind of being able to take control of that. So, just things to be aware of, start asking questions for yourself, and just, be cautious too. I think we're probably going to see, hopefully, a lot of these conversations that have been happening kind of, start to, I don't know, keep people in check a little bit or start some sort of process of accountability. But, just know this is a very early years in this field, and we're probably going to see a lot more of this. So, I guess
this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody's bravery can trigger other people to be brave as well, and try to do the right thing. So I expect to see a kind of a waterfall of reports coming out sooner than later. So should be quite interesting. Also scary. So stay tuned. We're going to try our best, and try to do what's best for, the community. Maybe not community, the scene, we'll call it. The scene made up of many communities.
Yes.
I guess, as we transition away from this, I just noticed that I am on a panel for real.
Nice.
It's called What This Industry of Psychedelics Look Like. It's going to have the Chief Strategy Officer from Fireside Project, CEO of Greenlight Psychedelics, and Spencer, who's the CEO of Therasil. Therasil's really cool. They're the ones that got all those kind of advanced licenses in Canada, right, for doing national level exclusions for individuals to give them like somewhat clinical psilocybin treatments. Pretty awesome.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, it's going to be a fun one. Again, coupon code Psychedelics Day at microdose.buzz for the Wonderland conference, and we'd love to have you. Cool. So on to the next topic here. I think we should talk about this Bank of America thing. I thought that was pretty interesting.
It sounds like this is from Marijuana Moment. Headline here: Bank of America cancels account of Marijuana and Psychedelics Research Institute registered with the DEA. Bank of America notified Scottsdale Research Institute, SRI, that it would be closing its accounts without clear explanation of the reasoning. And I believe that's where Sue Sisley is at too.
That's
right?
what it says here. Yeah. I'll read her tweet real quick that they quote here. Bank of America closes down account of federally licensed cannabis researcher. SRI conducts FDA-approved controlled trials evaluating cannabis as medicine for treating pain / PTSD in military veterans and terminally ill patients. This tragically shuts down our research, Bank of America, and it actually shows the statement. Just, for what it's worth, Wells Fargo and Bank of America are dicey. I've heard a lot of things. Wells Fargo I've been personally impacted by, but BOA, not necessarily to be trusted, but, it makes me wonder what happened here. Like, did the DEA or somebody just say, hey, Bank of America like clean it up? Or did Bank of America just like do an AI informed audit of accounts and say, all right, these are high risk, let's just close them to mitigate our risks? Yeah. Like my girlfriend used to run a pot shop here, and she had multiple accounts shut down, but it was kind of like obvious how that would all played out and like why they shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems kind of weird because I think it was just a few weeks ago the DEA made some steps to promote research into the risks and benefits of marijuana and psychedelics by trying to up the legal production of those substances for research because they're getting a bunch of applications. So I don't know. It seems weird that, I don't know, maybe they would go behind and do that. Or maybe it's just I mean, it got me thinking about the potential here for like crypto, right? It's like if banks are failing us with like, you know, trying to provide a structure for people to, you know, have the capital, have just functioning business around research, you know, how much longer are they going to be around if like they're not able to like support different businesses? And you know, I've heard this just in people offering education of like, you know, PayPal or Square shutting down their services, not being able to accept you know, payments because they have like psychedelic or something in their name. And so, you know, it's definitely something I've been thinking about over the years, and I feel like, you know, we're pretty fortunate we never had to run into that, but you know, I've seen it with a few people running into issues around credit card payments and stuff like that, just because of having, you know, words in their business title or description.
Right. You know, as a business owner, it's like helpful to vet the business, the bank you're looking at. It's helpful to have an actual relationship with the banker, which is not always possible. I remember a while ago, I talked to somebody in Boulder because we were looking at like setting up new accounts, and this person was like, I personally drove the whole CBD program to get all these CBD people banked because it was really hard for a little while for CBD businesses to get bank accounts even. And
wow,
this person was really sincere, it seemed to me, that they would be able to defend me keeping an account open with something like Psychedelics Today in the account title. So I was like, oh, this is really cool that there are bankers out there like this willing to defend their clients.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is why a lot of people just have nonsense business names in their, you know, business, you know, incorporation documents and bank account titles. So that you ask a question, oh yeah, we just do consulting or we just do education or something like that. So just be careful. I actually just wrote to Sue Sicily right now, realizing that she's in Phoenix. I'll be in Phoenix this weekend, and maybe we can record about it in person, which would be cool.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So sorry that happened to you, Sue. Everybody else out there just needs to be careful. And how much worse is this than Instagram shutting down your account? Way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather lose some followers than a bunch of money.
Yeah, totally. So you can keep your operations going and actually do good research. Yeah, for those that want to know, she's with the Scottsdale Research Institute, SRI, and operates in Scottsdale, Arizona. Hopefully we can link up and report more on that story. Next up, the famed Boris, his name Boris Johnson, Prime Minister in the UK. This headline on BBC, Boris Johnson to consider calls to legalize magic mushroom drug psilocybin. So it's pointing at psilocybin specifically. But this one member of parliament, Crispin Blunt, urged the PM to review the law to allow more research into the drug's therapeutic quality. So this is the kind of advocacy I think we need at the federal levels. Like, we need senior people in positions of power to lobby people higher up to say, hey, like, we really need to do this and let's get this rolling. We need to open up federal national research funds. We need the laws to be easier to actually do research. Like, it's inappropriate that, you know, Pfizer working on, Pfizer can do whatever they want because they've got so much funding. They can really cruise through research. But these kind of small pharma startups, like even MAPS themselves, have to deal with a lot of burdens that normal pharma research doesn't have to deal with. It's kind of discriminatory. Well, it's literally discriminatory. So how do we change that? It's going to take politics, because we need the research. A lot of people don't think we need the research, but I prefer to have a lot of research on this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, any data point's helpful for helping you triangulate the future. But anyway, I'm excited about that. And it looks like there's some kind of intervention from Heroic Hearts here. I think it might be through their affiliation with that Crispin Blunt character in the MP. Yeah, so who knows? But I'm hopeful. So here's a quote from the end of this BBC article.
Get on board. I've always heard that like UK politics around drugs is pretty behind, even though it's kind of interesting just thinking about like Imperial College over there doing so much research.
Right. And worth remembering, David Nutt was fired for research he was hired to do around the drug harm scale that was published in The Lancet. I think that came out in 2008 or 9. Read a final thing here. This charity called Drug Science. David Baddock, who's the chief executive of that group, said that current research on psilocybin was promising, but more research was required. Quote, "We know there is huge therapeutic potential in psilocybin, but the trouble is there is evidence, but we need more research. We need to do more research to fully understand the full potential." Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. Doesn't mean I don't think we should legalize it immediately and have it prescribable immediately, but yes, we need more research. Wholeheartedly fall in line with that one. But yeah, it's super cool to see action. I think Nutt's involved with drug science. Yeah,
right.
I think so. Yeah. It looks like it's a charity, and that's one of the products of the charity. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw this. I don't have a link right now, but Switzerland is planning to legalize cannabis, and I think I saw something like Liechtenstein or Luxembourg as well. I think Luxembourg will be the first EU member to do it, or whatever, one of those two, and then Switzerland will be, the non-EU member legalizing pretty soon. I think it's going to be fucking cool. Makes traveling in Europe a lot more enjoyable, and hopefully they can stop spending money on cannabis law enforcement. Outrageous use of law enforcement. How about child
glad
trafficking?
To see all this stuff is moving forward. It's mind-boggling to think that we're still just arresting people for cannabis at this point.
Yeah, it's silly. Like since 2014 I've had state level legal recreational cannabis, and it's outrageous to me when I go to other states and they're like, "Oh yeah, you could buy this horrible edible from Maine." Like, yeah, we just legalized, but it's like horrible quality. Only because like the markets aren't mature yet. Like, they will get better products in time, I'm confident, but it's like, pay like, fuck, it felt like 5 to 10x for a way inferior product that I can get here when I was in Maine recently.
Colorado is just ahead of a lot of things.
Don't come here. Canada is way better. Federal legalization has a lot of advantages. Anyway, I think we can move on beyond Boris, but again, that was a BBC article from Boris Johnson, the guy, probably the coolest hairdo in England. Actually, no, second coolest. Like Carhartt Harris had the coolest before he left. Anyway, next up, WBUR. It's a Massachusetts radio station put this out. WBUR.org. Title: East Hampton is the 4th city in Massachusetts to vote to decriminalize psychedelics. I know some individuals involved here, and I'm happy to know that this stuff's moving. My friend kind of lives in this area and helped quite a bit.
So we have East Hampton, kind of Northampton, Somerville, and
Cambridge. So like Cambridge, where MIT Harvard is too. Yeah. Little known fact: my old man was born in Somerville. I used to spend a lot of time in Somerville, and it's pretty cool. East Hampton, I spent less time in, but I'm in love with that Western Massachusetts area. It's so gorgeous.
So nice. Yeah, it's so nice up there.
Yeah, like some of our kind of spiritual lineage comes through there, and in a way, it comes through Western Massachusetts. I feel like Kripalu's a little bit of it, and same with Omega Institute, just over the border in New York. And our teachers aren't that far from Western Mass, so it feels like home to me, and it's like nice to see that kind of progress. And again, decriminalization meaning lowest law enforcement priority. So the test is how many people get busted over the course of a year or 2 or 3, and what do the judges decide to do with that? Because if it truly is the lowest law enforcement priority, the cases should just get tossed out. That's my vision of it. But if somebody is like a target individual, they should make, maybe they'll make a case of that person. And this doesn't mean the DEA can't step in, like that thing that happened with Cole in Denver.
Yeah.
So be really careful. We still need to get Cole on to tell his side of the story, by the way. I feel bad.
You connected with him, right? And
we had a lovely phone call. Oh yeah, totally. I think he might be in Kansas City, so maybe I can get an excuse to go to Kansas City.
That'd be cool to like hear his journey there, because really that is
compelling,
definitely an example. Like a case where he was made an example of.
The long and short is the official narrative is not accurate. There was actually a journalist that outed him to law enforcement, and that journalist got a lot of shit. So as a journalist, you carry a lot of responsibility because people trust you not to like get them in trouble, right? And yeah, I don't know. As a grower, I probably wouldn't have talked to a journalist either, but it's, his decision, right? And he's had to live with the consequences.
Well, I mean,
I think he did okay though overall.
Like if he felt like he trusted somebody, that it was going to be like anonymous. But yeah, I get it. I would be a little cautious and weary too.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's it for articles today. Anything else you want to comment on before we kind of wrap here?
Yeah, I think that is it on articles. Yeah, I guess just to kind of recap just that conversation. Just felt like we needed to kind of come out and chat about that. Probably should have maybe saved it towards the end, have some of this news up front first, and then that. 'Cause that is a
reel them in
deep and
it was
heavy topic. So I don't know, just toss it out there if you have any feedback or comments or anything along those lines. Love to hear about it.
And if we offended any of you or hurt your feelings, I'm sorry, but we spent a lot of time thinking about the right way to approach this, and this is where we landed. I don't know too many of the accused. I've actually not met any of the accused in these cases. I've met some people who are perpetrators in person, and I feel dirty that I didn't know as I was chatting with them and chumming it up with them. And they're still on my mind. They're still out there. A lot of these people are close to some big organizations that you might know and love, and it sucks. Really, it's a shitty situation. I'm not trying to say the whole thing's totally rotten. Like the pool is big enough that, say you did pee in the pool, it's going to go everywhere, but the pool's pretty friggin' big right now. And like, it's not really that bad. For the whole future of the space. So, number one, keep it in your pants. Don't touch people without consent. If you're going to do something where you're touching people, like make sure you have a lot of conversations pre-dosing about it. Maybe you need to totally revision how you're doing underground intake. Like maybe it needs to be a lot longer and you need to charge a little bit more to be able to allow for that kind of informed consent. But, realistically, I don't think as a scene we're really ready for the sexual stuff to come in. Though I'm hopeful that there could be some really interesting, sexual interventions in psychedelic space, but it's like, it's way too early. It's way too edgy to like be trying to make any of that mainstream.
Yeah.
So be very careful, please. Very, very careful. Over the line with consent. Overboard with consent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you just kind of bring up an interesting point around that topic around like sex and psychedelics. Like, yeah, I'm sure there is some really interesting healing aspects there, right? But yeah, how the hell do you do that ethically, safely, with a bunch of consent? And yeah, because I know there are people that kind of like are into that, right? And you hear some of these like really profound stories. But yeah, how do you
we've
do
even
that
had students, right? And it's like, what the fuck was that you just described publicly in class? And like, how do I shut that down appropriately? Or like say, all right, let's pretend that didn't happen or something. It's like, it's a really scary thing. And the things that people have talked about are things that I'm actually on top of other individuals about like watching closely, we'll say. So it's happening. People are very interested in it. Like, I think psychedelics do breed like interesting developments in individuals, you know, sexual activity status and interest status. It's like, it's certainly a type of mutagen as far as that goes. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just something we need to be aware of. I think it's actually a beneficial thing. It's just, let's not pretend it doesn't exist. Yeah. Relationship styles, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think
let's kind of, mic drop. Anyway, Microdose Wonderland, November 8-9. I just was notified that there is like an electronic pass. If you just want to watch from home, you can get a pass there. Our coupon code will work, Psychedelics today. You can use our affiliate link if you want at psychedelicstoday.com/welcome. Again, I'll be moderating a panel. Kyle, I think you are also moderating a panel. You got an email about that?
I think so, yeah.
It's something about retreats, right?
No, it was changed. that one was changed, yeah.
Cool. But it's going to be a
beautiful
beautiful
I think I'm
event.
still just waiting on confirmation. I think the one that I
Right
submitted for was like the future of psychedelic medicine, like how far can we push it or what things are we not asking, if I'm remembering correctly.
There's a lot of questions we're not asking. So I'm excited to see you interface with
DMTX.
kind of corporate types. Oof. Yeah, right. And there's so many more, like these spiritual emergence farms that we need that we don't have yet. 'Cause sometimes people are going to need to go to the farm for a little bit. And they're going to need to calm down and like get regulated. It's going to be a big part of it, and we're not there yet. So yeah, again, Wonderland, we'd love to see you there. Microdose.buzz, or use our website and you'll find your way there. It'll be all over our socials too. What else is going on? Navigating Psychedelics kicks off January 6th, I believe. We have 2 rounds, early and late. Check that out. Psychedelicstoday.com. It's all over our socials as well. We've actually been selling that one for months now, so it's probably at least quarter full, if not halfway full, which is awesome. And we've got some big things coming. We keep saying that, but really big things coming in the education world. So stay tuned. We might do some webinars about it sooner than later. And then Kyle, do you want to talk about the Dr. Jerry Brown project at all? Or are we not ready to talk about that yet?
No, so the Psychedelics Past, Present, and Future, we're going to release that. So you might have missed, we were going to do a live class, but we're just going to be releasing the self-paced course. That should be up within the next few weeks or so. I know, we're just restructuring some things over there. So that will be available. We also have a ketamine and trauma treatment series coming up soon. Still finalizing everything on that end. So 2 new classes in the works that should be coming out with some CE approval. I'm really excited about it. I was just chatting with one of our employees that's been helping out a bunch with the ketamine treatment series, and she says she's just been learning a ton and just how valuable it's going to be. So I'm really excited to finally get that out to everybody.
Right. It's amazing. It's really cool. And I can't wait to take it. I almost want to do a live cohort with you. So I'll be pushing you on that for next year.
We should think about live cohort with it.
Yeah, I never say let's do less. Which is kind of a problem. Anything else going on? Personally, I'll also be at Meet Delic. If anybody's going to be in the Vegas area, please say hi. No speaking there. And that's probably it for now. Or what do you got?
Dream Shadow.
The webinar series.
Yeah, webinar series. So if you're interested in what's going on over at Dream Shadow Transpersonal Breathwork, if you've been following the show for a while, you probably heard us talk about Dream Shadow and Lenny Elizabeth Gibson for ages. So we just did our first overview of what is Dream Shadow Transpersonal Breathwork. Went into kind of like the history, foundation, kind of like the philosophical roots of the the practice. And we have 3 more webinars coming up. The replay is also available. We can link that somewhere as well. So if you missed it, you can feel free to go sign up for that and watch the replay. And then we're going to have 3 more webinars. The next one is on November 17th. And that starts at 7 p.m., so that's a Wednesday evening, and that is going to be on one of the components of group process. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out. And with that Zoom registration link, we'll probably also create a Facebook event page too, so you'll be able to sign up that way. But you'll be able to sign up for the rest of the 3. So yeah, check
Great.
it out if you want to kind of learn from where we come from.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that. And yeah, we'll have links all over for that. Also, if you want to nominate us for an award, microdose.buzz/awards. We would love for you to nominate us, both Podcast of the Year and Media Company of the Year. We would love it. So I think that's it for now, Kyle. Yeah. Again, code Psychedelics today. Save yourself 20% at Microdose Wonderland. And hope to see you there. All right, man. I think that's enough. Thank you all for tuning in, right. And we will see you all in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. I think I just said that twice. Awesome.